Hey guys, I am so excited to be here. I just want to immediately, just right off the bat, say that I taught a class today and I did 2 readings and I was not able to say anything with any sort of fluency. I have not been able to communicate at all. And I know it's because of Mars, which I'll talk about, but I just want to say that I know that I'm not speaking in any sort of intelligible manner and that every word is stumbling upon itself. And yet I still decided I'm going to take that knowledge and I'm going to go on Instagram Live. So that is just really irresponsible on my part. But I have so much to say that I was like, I'm just going to stumble out loud and maybe someone will catch something in the midst of all the words that I'm saying. But before I even get started, hi, I hope you are well, or as well as you possibly can be. My name is Jasmine Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor, journalist, girl in the world experiencing it. If you're watching this on live, thank you so much for joining. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. I'm basically going to break down the astrological weather, talk a little bit about what's going on and what will be going on, especially this weekend that we have a new moon, give you some journaling prompts to work with, and send you on your way and send you my love. So, let me see if there's anything else to say before I get into it. No. I just hope that you're well. So the very first thing that I want to say is that this weekend, the first thing I will actually say is the reason why communication has been very difficult for me, especially these past 2 days, and also just why you may be experiencing feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated is because Mars is in the sign of Gemini. It moved there, I think, last week. Yeah, it's been there for about a handful of days, but I feel like we're really feeling this energy, especially moving out of a space when it was placed in Taurus, right? So Mars, hi, thank you for joining. So Mars is our drive. It's our masculine force. It's our willingness to move forward and forge ahead in a masculine way, right? To get stuff done. And it was in the sign of Taurus. So a lot of our drive was derivative of acclimation, right? Of dating, of making sure that we were building a solid foundation for ourselves. And so now that it's moving into Gemini, our focus or our drive is not rooted in sort of building this sustainable foundation for ourselves, though I know that that is playing a role somewhere else, but it's more so rooted in the expansion of the mind, learning new things, nurturing our curiosity. But a way that this can also manifest is that we can feel as if we have 100 tabs open. We can be so inspired by different things and different avenues that spark our curiosity, and we can want to follow it. And that can make us sort of stack up our tasks. It can make us maybe stretch out our energy a bit too thin to the point where we can't really show up anywhere else or even for ourselves because we're so invested in so many different ideas and topics and ways that we want to express ourselves. And it can be exciting, but when you're in it, it's kind of like one of those things where you're moving on such a rush of energy that at the end of it, you realize oh, I'm actually in pain. I actually injured myself. So I say that to say to please be responsible with your energy. I know that right now can be a time where your curiosity is sparked in a lot of different avenues and where you do want to embark on new projects, when you have a million ideas and you want to pour yourself 100% into all of them, but maybe just being a bit more mindful on what is actually calling you, what can be prioritized in a way that is responsible, in a way that will actually honor the fact that you're a human being with only so much capability, right? Another thing that is important to know is just, riding off of that, I think it is important to recognize the fact that, with Mars being in Gemini, there is this invitation to explore something that is outside of your norms, and not only in a hobby or in a learning sense, but also just in this way of maybe I want to talk to people that have different perspectives than me. Maybe I want to connect with someone that is outside of my social norm. Maybe I want to put myself in situations that are different than what I'm used to, but that is how we expand our visions. That's how we evolve. That's how we deepen our connection to the world. And so it's really important that you just allow yourself to free flow and to be led by where your curiosity takes you and where your soul leads you, as opposed to what makes sense to pour my energy to and what is actually productive. Just let your mind wander a bit. But the reason why also that I felt I have not been able to communicate clearly for the past 2 days, and it has so much to do with this placement because obviously, Gemini rules our mind, it rules communication, it rules exploration, and it rules expression. And so you can be tripped up on your words a bit, and you can also be really impulsive when it comes to your reactions to things. It can be really this placement is just indicative of like saying what you feel immediately and kind of not really letting that be filtered through a lens of like, does this actually, does this make sense? See, it's happening right now. I literally cannot speak. Just make sure that you think before you speak, and that when you react, you're reacting from a space of like, okay, I actually process this, and this is how I feel, and this is going to lead to the advancement of the conversation, as opposed to like, this is an emotion and I'm feeling it right now, I'm going to say it right now. So just monitor your own impulsivity. I don't know if that's a word, but whatever. Moving on. This weekend on the 13th, so I believe that's Saturday or Sunday, I don't know numbers, we have a new moon in Pisces, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful placement. A really good lunation, especially because it's kind of like marking the end of an era. If you're following me on this account on Lolly the Luna TV, I just posted a journaling prompt that I'll also share, but I'll just share it now. What major lesson did I learn this last chapter that I choose to implement into this next chapter? And the reason why I think this really resonates is because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and Pisces season is kind of like marking the end of the era of the year that we just experienced, right? So we're moving into Aries season, which is spring, and in the astrological perspective is like the new year. It's the beginning of a new chapter, a new era. So we're in a space where we're really reflective, and new moons are all about setting intention. And so I do want you to work with this in terms of like manifestation magic, just because, especially how Venus, Neptune, and Pluto are playing a role, there is an ability to really make some fucking magic with your words, especially. Like this weekend, I would really advise you to either speak out loud or write down what it is that you're calling in for yourself, especially in terms of like romantic aspects of your life, like the relationship that you want to call in, or the way that you want to embody yourself, really step into your feminine energy, or even just the way that you want to romanticize your work. Anything can be romantic. And I think a huge theme of this lunation is kind of like the way that we lack in romanticizing our lives, or the way that we can see ourselves in more of a dreamlike lens than we allow ourselves to. Because truthfully, I'm going all over the place, and I'm so sorry. This is once again Mars and Gemini. I'm just going to roll with it. But our experience is directly derivative of our perspective. And so if we choose to see, or we choose to feed narratives that chain us to like, negativity or cycles, that's going to manifest, because that's what we're speaking into our lives, and that's a perspective that we're looking at our lives at. However, if we choose to, hi, thank you for joining. If we choose to see our life through the lens of romanticism, if we choose to see our lives as a fairy tale, if we choose to affirm that like, no, my life is a rom-com, we will have that experience. And so this lunation is really saying like, how have you been looking at your life, and how can you shift it to be in more of a romanticized lens? How can you see every lover and every love lost as sort of a stepping towards what is true for you? Or how can you see everything that's fallen apart as the molding of self and the deepening of your evolution, right? Just choosing your perspective. But I went like 12 steps ahead. Why did I go all the way there? So Pisces season, and this new moon in Pisces is a beautiful time to reflect on everything that we have just experienced, right? Because we are at the end. This is the end. This is literally the end of a year-long chapter. And as we step into, it's recognizing, what have I experienced? What fundamental lessons did I learn in those experiences? How did I meet myself? How did I redefine my perspective of the world? How did I redefine joy? How did I redefine success? And how am I going to honor those lessons that I really physically lived and pour them into how I move forward? Now that I have a more deepened idea of who I want to be as a lover, or what I want to do with my time, and what I want to do with my energy, how am I going to make sure that that guides how I move forward? How am I going to make sure that that is what filters the decisions that I make, the people that I allow into my life, and what I spend my time doing, what I prioritize doing? Really making sure, because obviously, like I said, that's what I was saying before. This is a beautiful time to set intention. I would really, really, really advise you to speak what it is that you want for yourself. This weekend, I really, 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 especially like Saturday itself, really take the time to either find a sacred group of people and speak it out loud, share your dreams with one another, or write it down if you have a dedicated new moon journal. It's a beautiful time to plant seeds. There's just a lot of planetary support for manifestation, but it's also worth noting that there's an aspect that is very, very reflective about this. There's an aspect that is very like, how are the seeds that you are planting nourished by what you've already experienced and the way that you've shown up for yourself thus far? There's something else that I was gonna say and I forgot. what was it? Just, yeah, honestly, work alongside it, really, is what I would say. Really, really making sure that when you are speaking this reality that you're calling in for yourself, because we really are essentially moving into a new chapter, a new era, a new version of self. So really making sure that when you are calling it in and feeling it, that you are doing so in a way that's tangible, that you're really feeling this reality. Oh, something that's very important that I really want you to take away from this is when we are on path, we are already worthy of celebrating. It's already okay to celebrate. And what I mean by that, and I wrote this down, do things that feel special in the effort to stop placing conditioning on when you're allowed to celebrate. So when you are already in a space where you know the steps that I'm taking forward are in alignment with all that I'm calling into my life, everything that I'm manifesting, everything that I'm working so hard to experience, whether it's relationship or career or just evolution of self. If you already know that you are walking in alignment with that you're making the decisions that nourish your environment to feed that in and bring that in, you already have the means to celebrate. Because when we abide by lives where we need like physical manifestations or things to happen in order for us to say, okay, I am worthy of being celebrated now, okay, I can like eat this cake and drink this wine because I finally did it, it's going to suck us into a cycle where we need to have evidence that we are allowed to celebrate, and then we celebrate it for a second, and then that excitement burns out just as quickly, and we need to wait for the next thing. As opposed to recognizing the fact that you are already here, you have already arrived. These things that you want for yourself are already yours, and they're going to unfold in divine timing because you are already living a life that is abiding by their manifestation. If you know that you want this, this relationship, you're already loving yourself in a way that's going to magnetize that relationship to you. If you know you want this career, you're already taking the steps towards manifesting that for yourself, whether it is through pouring your intention into it every single day or living your life in alignment with it. If you know you want, to evolve to this different version of yourself, you already know that you are taking care of yourself. You're eating the foods, you're doing the work, you're manifesting, you're meditating. The point is that if you're already on path for it, you can already celebrate because you already have arrived, and we don't need markers in life to tell us like, okay, now you can celebrate because you did the work, you got the award. It's more so of like just romanticizing your life by recognizing that there is already so much to celebrate simply by the fact that you have arrived, and simply by the fact that you have already poured so much attention and intention to getting where you are now. I'm on a full tangent, and this is Mars and Gemini. There's nothing else I can do except the fact that like I am just word vomiting, but there's just so much magic to work with during this weekend that I really, really hope you take away the fact that your reality and your experience of this reality is directly derivative of how you choose to view it, how much you choose to celebrate, and how much you choose to romanticize the fact that you are literally the main character. Like, I know that's like that TikTok vibe right now that's like, you need to see yourself as like the main character of this like coming of age film, but truthfully there's so much behind that is really, really, really true. Really making sure that you are viewing the way that life has guided you and provided you. Because truthfully, everything that you've experienced this last year, you could have let that crush you. You could have let that kill your soul. And it was really easy to, and a lot of people did. And that's not to villainize them, but that's more to say you didn't. You rose up to the occasion. And now that you have really shown up for yourself this past year, yes, it's going to put you in a space where you can manifest so much more. But it's also worth noting that like, you are already worthy of being celebrated. You already are worthy of celebrating yourself because you've done so much to get to where you are right now. Woo, child. Okay, what else do I want to say? Pay attention to your dreams right now. If you don't have a practice of sort of like writing down your dreams when you wake up, I would really encourage you to do that now. Sorry, there's a bug. But especially during this week, especially in this weekend, there's going to be a lot of symbology, a lot of past people, a lot of archetypes showing up in our dream world. So making sure that the minute you wake up, you write that down and that you are led by it. It's because right now, truthfully, so much is heightened, so much in terms of like our emotional field is heightened. And this also means that our intuition is heightened. And the way that our intuition sometimes speaks to us is through our subconscious, it's through our dream state. So making sure that you're paying attention to your dreams, the colors, the numbers that show up, the people that show up, the instances and the circumstances, and just what's going on in your subconscious. It's really gonna give you tools and guidance and hints as to what you need to be developing right now or paying more attention to or pouring more attention to. So pay attention to your dream world. pay attention to your dream state, and really just use this time to manifest. And you can manifest through reflection. You can manifest through recognizing what didn't work, why it didn't work, what did feed you, what did nourish you, how you showed up for yourself, and how it felt when you placed certain boundaries, and how it felt when you really showed up for yourself in different ways. Also, just like the routines that nourished you. Now is a beautiful time to really cultivate and honor a spiritual routine. And a spiritual routine doesn't always look like manifesting for 3 hours. Sometimes it looks like making sure that whatever puts you in a meditative state, whatever form of play and creation looks like for you, making sure that that is part of what you schedule for yourself, because that is going to put you in the most powerful state of being when you're able to sort of like shut your mind off and create from a human perspective, and just like kind of let your body and soul make and connect and be. That's when you're going to be able to manifest the most easily. Celebrate more. Beautiful time to plant seeds of intention as far as your spiritual journey is concerned. So if there's any ways that you want to deepen your relationship with your intuition, now would be the time to kind of set that intention. And once again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but examine the way you've been examine the way you've been perpetuating a victim narrative or a narrowed perspective. So like I said, so much of our experience is born from how we choose to perceive ourselves, our realities, and it's important that we take ourselves out of that victim mentality, or that we see things as happening to us and not for us, and just connecting back to like the grander scheme of things, the way that, you know, we're the co-creators of our reality, and the way that things are happening in a way that is divinely orchestrated that we couldn't even see if we tried, but rather just trusting that everything is developing exactly as it's meant to. The way that I'm speaking today is embarrassing. So yeah, this can feel like a release because it is kind of like the end of an era, and what an era it was. You know, Pisces season is always sort of like marking the end, but I think the fact that we all collectively had such an intense year in every way, shape, and form, it's like this is a really, really, really imperative time that you be kind to yourself and recognize the way that you showed up for yourself, recognize the way that you met your dreams, the communities that you made, the communities you became a part of, and just the way that you allowed yourself to redefine what living purposefully and fully looks like for you, and what fulfillment looks like for you. You know, you've done so much, you've really put in the work, and it's important to let yourself already celebrate instead of like waiting for the moments to be indicative of that. And yeah, so a couple of journaling prompts that I would invite you to work with if you are a journaler, I hope you implement that into your practice, would be, what major lesson did I learn this last chapter that I choose to implement into this next chapter? I said that earlier. What negative narratives have I chained myself to, and how can I romanticize my perspective? So, you know, what have I, for example, people are always like, oh, my relationships never work out, or every interview always goes south, or even just like in the little dialogues that we have with ourselves throughout the day. Like even if you're making an omelet and you're like, oh, should I always burn the whatever? You know, just recognizing the way that you're talking to yourself, because words are so powerful. Recognizing the narrative that you may have been feeding into without even realizing it, and shifting it to romanticize it a bit. So if relationships never work out for you, recognize that like, oh, every lover really is teaching me a fundamental lesson that's going to be imperative for when I really do meet my soulmate. Or, you know, every interview, just went out, but every interview that goes south is getting me closer to my dream role. Recognizing that every single thing that has happened for you and not to you. So just journaling a little bit on how you can shift your dialogue with yourself and your dialogue in terms of like interaction with your reality. And lastly, what seeds am I planting on this new moon? And when you reflect on what it is that you're manifesting into your life, I really want you to be the most intentional with how it feels and how it will feel when it arrives, right? But not placing conditioning on your happiness in terms of when it does arrive, right? It's not like I'm allowed to be happy, I'm allowed to feel worthy once I have manifested this thing, but rather like this is what I'm calling into my life, and it's going to nourish and be the sprinkles on top of a life that is already worthy of being celebrated. I have talked 300 million miles a minute, but I hope that you took something from that. In summation, please work with this new moon this weekend. It's really, really powerful. It's really powerful in terms of seed planting, especially with the way Pluto, which is a planet of transformation and rebirth, is aspecting. And then Venus and Neptune are together, which Venus is kind of like our divine feminine, our source of fertility, but also just how we show up relationally in the world. And it's with Neptune, which is, it rules Pisces. So it's connection to ethers. It's also just like how we show up in servitude. It can make things a bit blurry. So if you feel kind of like, you know, things don't have a lot of clarity right now, I think that also is being met with Mars and Gemini, which is kind of like word vomit, emotional vomit. Emotions are very heightened. Know that like while we are still in a bit of a weird space, this month has no retrogrades, and that is something to really, really, really celebrate. And we are about to embark in a series of supermoons and eclipses that are going to be quite intense. So just use this little window that we have of relative calm to really like allow yourself to feel what it is that you're calling into your life. Allow yourself to congratulate yourself for how far you've come, especially because we are in a reflective state. We're at the end of an era. So as we embark in this next era, how are you going to make sure that everything you've carried and experienced along with you is going to feed and nourish that? Thank you guys for joining. I'm about to hop off, but I will be posting this replay. And in summation, you know, this is a beautiful time to connect with your magic, connect with your power. You are the co-creator of your reality. Everything has to do with your perspective. And so, yeah, it's intense, Queen, but but we're all experiencing it together. I'm so grateful that you joined me. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching this on, you know, Instagram, follow. I posted a journaling prompt to work with. And otherwise, I'm sending you all my love. Have a good one.